I didn't realize I was losing her while she was still sleeping next to me. That's the part that still bothers me. She didn't leave suddenly. She didn't explode. She didn't accuse me of anything I hadn't already told myself in quieter moments. She just started waking up differently. And I didn't notice until it was already normal. We had been together almost 7 years. Long enough that people stopped asking how we met. Long enough that holidays blurred together. Long enough that love stopped feeling fragile. I thought that meant we were safe. I was wrong. Her name was Claire. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't demand constant reassurance. She didn't threaten to leave during arguments. That should have scared me more than it did. In the beginning, everything felt deliberate. We chose each other actively, that we talked late into the night, that we argued and repaired, that we listened. Back then, I noticed the way her mood changed when she felt ignored, that I noticed when she needed reassurance, that I noticed when silence bothered her. Later, I told myself she'd tell me if something was wrong. That was my first mistake. I work in project management. Deadlines, responsibility, pressure that doesn't switch off just because you're home. I told myself I was providing stability, that long hours were temporary, that building something solid mattered more than checking in every night. She never argued with that logic. She just adjusted around it. At some point, she stopped waiting for me to come to bed. I noticed once, then forgot to notice again. She started reading alone on the couch, taking longer showers, going to sleep earlier. I assumed she was tired. I didn't ask why. There were signs. There are always signs. She stopped asking how my day was in detail, stopped interrupting me when I worked late at home, stopped suggesting we do things just because. She became efficient, independent, quietly organized around my absence. And I mistook that for maturity. One night, she said something small. We were in the kitchen. Nothing dramatic, just standing there. "I feel like I'm living next to you," she said. "Not with you." I laughed softly, not cruelly, just defensively. "You're overthinking," I said. That sentence did more damage than I understood at the time. After that, she stopped bringing things up. I thought we'd solved something. In reality, she just stopped trusting me with it. I still loved her. That's what makes this harder to explain. I wasn't cheating, that I wasn't planning to leave, that I wasn't unhappy. I just assumed love could survive on maintenance mode, like a system that keeps running if nothing crashes. Weeks passed. Months. We functioned well together. We paid bills, that we made plans, that we showed up to family events. From the outside, we looked solid. From the inside, something was thinning. Not breaking, just thinning. There was a night I should have paid attention to. We were lying in bed. Lights off. She asked, very calmly, "Do you ever worry we're becoming strangers?" I stared at the ceiling. I didn't want to lie, but I also didn't want to open something I didn't have energy to handle. So I said nothing. She waited, then turned away. That was the moment that changed everything. I just didn't know it yet. After that, she stopped asking questions. That's when men should panic. I didn't. I started noticing how quiet the apartment felt. Not peaceful, empty. She laughed less, smiled politely, told me things after they'd already been decided. She wasn't angry. She was preparing. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. She was sitting at the table with her laptop open. Not working, just staring. She looked up and smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. That was the first time I felt something real crack inside me. "Are you okay?" I asked. She nodded. "I'm just tired," she said. And for the first time, I understood that tired didn't mean sleep. It meant carrying something alone for too long. I wanted to fix it. I just didn't know how to admit I'd ignored it. So I did what I always did. I waited. I thought time would soften things. I didn't realize time was doing the opposite. It was teaching her how to live without needing me emotionally. And once that happens, love becomes optional. The night she stopped saying good night changed everything. She just turned off the light. No words, no tension, just absence. That's when it hit me. Not like panic, like clarity. The kind that arrives too late to feel heroic. I didn't know it yet, but I was already standing at the edge of the moment where effort starts feeling like regret. And she had been standing there alone for a long time. The strange thing about realization is that it never arrives alone. It brings guilt, fear, that a sudden urgency that feels almost embarrassing. Because, If you'd acted sooner, this wouldn't feel so desperate. After that quiet night, I started watching her. Not in a suspicious way, in a catching up too late kind of way. I noticed how carefully she chose her words, how she didn't interrupt anymore, how she smiled to end conversations instead of open them. She wasn't withdrawing. She was protecting herself. I try to be better. That's what men say when they realize something's wrong. But better is vague when you don't know where you failed. So I started small. I asked about her day. Really asked. I put my phone away, stayed present, nodded in the right places. She noticed. Of course she did. But she didn't lean into it. She just acknowledged it, like someone humoring a late apology. One night, I cooked dinner. Not takeout. Not rushed. I planned it. Set the table. Opened a bottle of wine we'd been saving. She looked surprised. Not excited. Surprised. That hurt more than I expected. "This is nice," she said, and then added quietly, "You didn't have to." That sentence carried weight, because it wasn't about the dinner. It was about everything that came before it. We ate, talked, carefully, like two people learning a shared language they'd almost forgotten. I wanted to reach for her hand. I didn't want to scare her. Or worse, remind her of something she'd already let go of. Later that night, I asked the question I'd been avoiding. "Are we okay?" She didn't answer right away. She took a breath. That breath told me everything. "I don't know," she said finally. "And that's what scares me." I nodded. There was nothing smart to say. She told me she felt lonely even when I was home, that she stopped asking for things because she hated feeling needy, that every time I minimized her concerns, something inside her went quiet. She wasn't accusing. She was explaining. That made it worse. "I didn't mean to hurt you," I said. She looked at me then. "I know," she replied. "That's the problem." That night, she slept beside me. But not close. There was space between us. Not physical. Intentional. Over the next few weeks, I stayed consistent. I showed up. Listened. Canceled late work. Suggested weekends away. She didn't resist. But she didn't rely on it either. She accepted my effort like someone evaluating a job applicant. Professional. Polite. Detached. I wanted to tell her I'd always chosen her. But the truth was harder. I had chosen comfort. Momentum. The belief that love didn't need daily attention. The worst part was realizing she still cared. Just not in a way that required me anymore. She had learned how to carry herself without leaning on me. And independence, once fully formed, rarely reverses. One evening, she told me she'd been thinking about moving. Not immediately. Not dramatically. Just thinking. That's when fear finally showed itself. Raw. Undeniable. "Are you saying you want to leave?" I asked. She shook her head. "I'm saying I need to know I could," she said. And that terrified me more than a clear answer. I reached for her then. Held her. She let me. But she didn't sink into it. She stayed upright. Alert. That night, I realized something painful. Effort doesn't always rebuild trust. Sometimes it just highlights how long it was missing. I fell asleep with my arm around her. For the first time in months. And still, something felt unresolved. Like we were both waiting for the moment when effort would either become enough or expose that it never would be. I didn't know which way it would go, but I knew one thing for sure. The next decision, mine or hers, will be final. The decision didn't happen in a moment. That's the lie people tell themselves. There was no dramatic argument. In "oh slammed doors," in "oh last words" shouted from across the room. Just a series of quiet confirmations. She started packing slowly. Not all at once. A book here, a jacket there. Small things disappearing without announcement. I noticed. I didn't stop her. I didn't know how to do that without sounding like someone asking for time he hadn't earned. We still ate together. Still spoke. Still moved around each other with care. But something had shifted. She wasn't deciding whether to stay. She was deciding how to leave without resentment. One evening, she sat across from me at the table. No laptop. And no distractions. Just intention. "I don't want to be brave anymore," she said. "I want to be chosen without having to ask." I nodded. There was nothing left to explain. "I love you," I said. She believed me. That hurt. "I know," she replied. "That's why this is hard." She wasn't leaving because love was gone. She was leaving because love alone hadn't been enough. The last night we slept in the same bed. Neither of us pretended it was normal. We talked quietly, about nothing important, memories we didn't need to preserve. I didn't reach for her. She didn't ask me to. Some things feel too heavy to touch at the end. In the morning, she stood by the door, coat on, keys in hand. She looked around once. Not like someone searching for closure, like someone confirming it. "Take care of yourself," she said. "Not us. Just me." I watched her leave. No running after, and no promises made under pressure. Just the sound of the door closing. Soft. Final. The apartment changed immediately. Not because it was empty, because it no longer held expectation. For a long time, I kept waking up early, listening for her, then remembering. That memory came quietly too. Like everything else at the end, I replayed moments. Not the fights, the small dismissals. The nights I stayed focused on things that felt urgent but weren't permanent. The times I assumed love would wait. I learned something painful after she left. Love doesn't disappear when neglected. It transforms into distance, into independence, into the quiet strength required to walk away. Months passed. I became better, more present, more aware. Too late for us, but not too late to understand the cost. I don't tell this story because I lost her. I tell it because I almost didn't notice when I still had her. Some people leave loudly. Others leave once they've already left emotionally. Those are the ones you miss long after the door closes. I still think about her. Not with regret, with respect. For choosing herself when I didn't choose her enough. The things I thought didn't matter. The pauses, the silences, the unchecked distance. Those were the things that ended everything. And now, whenever someone sits across from me and asks to be seen, I listen. Not because I'm afraid of losing them, but because I finally understand what staying actually requires.